everyone, this is Arie of Pups Unleashed, and in this Forever Fix video, we are going to cover excitement jumping. There are a lot of reasons why a dog might jump up on you, but this video is for jumping up whenever your dog is excited. So if you're walking in the door from just getting home, if you're playing, if your dog's anticipating something really cool happening, like going on a walk, you see that jumping up behavior. And you can see this in dogs of any age. So this video will cover your Forever Fix for this issue. Remember that our Forever Fix videos are going to focus on patterns of behavior that will teach your dog something to do instead of the problem behavior, which in this case is jumping up. When working on and troubleshooting excitement jumping, there are some things that you should avoid at all costs to make your life and your dog's life a lot easier. So, when the excitement jumping begins, there's a couple of things that you want to avoid doing, and some of these are hard because they're things you want to do as a human. So when your dog jumps up, do not push them down with your hands. As humans, we use our hands all the time because we have those lovely opposable thumbs, but dogs do not have that ability with their forelimbs, so they don't understand when we use our forelimbs to kind of manipulate their body. So if you push your dog down when they're jumping, chances are they're going to jump right back up because they don't understand what we're doing with these fancy things. So when you're trying to get your dog to disengage, don't push down with your hands. We'll talk about what to do instead, but you want to avoid trying to manipulate with your hands as much as possible because dogs just don't get it. It doesn't really help the situation. Another thing to avoid is using any type of verbal reprimand. So yelling, any sort of noise that you think your dog doesn't like, those things in the moment typically don't help either, because oftentimes when a dog is jumping because they are excited, it's because they want attention. So even negative attention is attention. Don't forget about that. Think about little kids. It's the same way. You don't want to yell and give your dog that negative attention when they're jumping because they just learned that jumping can get some sort of reaction out of you. So try not to yell. Try not to make a lot of eye contact as well when your dog is jumping up. On the other side of the coin as well is try not to be too overly excited or rewarding when your dog is jumping up. So if you walk in the door and you walk in and you give that baby voice and you get all over the top, you move your hands a ton, you might kind of try to get your dog to play, that's going to get your dog super worked up and they're going to feed off of that energy and get even more excited and likely to jump or mouth on you or bark. So you want to avoid that really high energy greeting as well. If your dog is jumping up, the other thing you want to avoid is petting them. They're jumping up to get that attention, to get that petting most of the time. So oftentimes when you see a dog that jumps up a lot when people walk in the door, it's because they have been petted when jumping when their humans walk in the door. So that pattern has been reinforced. So we need to nix that pattern. If they're jumping, you are not petting. So essentially, you want to avoid anything that can be construed as negative attention or positive attention when your dog is jumping up. And as I really hit home in all of my videos, the other thing you want to avoid is any sort of aversive punishment. Shock collars, beep collars, stimulation collars, citronella collars, all of those things that are quick fixes in the moment. That is not going to work long term. It's going to give your dog a negative association with greetings in general, which is the last thing you want to do to a dog that's excited and happy to see you. And it can lead to other behavior problems. So it should go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. Any aversive equipment that is going to hurt or intimidate your dog or just suppress behavior instead of teaching them what to do, none of that's good either. So there's a lot of really great things we can do in the moment, but we want to avoid a lot of excitement, we want to avoid aversives, and we want to avoid negative attention as well. So let's go through a really solid pattern that you can reinforce when you greet your dog, especially when you come home after not being, in your house for a while, so you're at work or on an errand. But you can also generalize this to other times when you're greeting your dog when they're excited. So if they know they're going on a walk, or if they're really worked up because they know they're going to play or they just played, any circumstance where they're excited, this will work. But I will be using the example of returning home because that is the most common time that I see really out of control jumping that we need to troubleshoot. So when you walk in the door from being out somewhere, chances are your dogs already know you're home. They have excellent hearing, they know your schedule, so they probably already know you're home. So they're probably a little worked up already. So when you walk in the door, the first thing you want to do is establish a really calm demeanor. So we're all super excited to see our dogs, but if we fly off the handle with the hand gestures and moving around a lot and getting that really high-pitched voice, they're going to lose it as well because they know that you're excited when you do that. So instead, you walk in, you very calmly greet your dog by keeping a tone of voice that is low but affectionate. So we don't want to sound cold. We still want to be affectionate, but we want to be low energy. So how are you doing? So good to see you. And then you're going to keep moving. Feel free to do, hand under the chin or a little chest scratch, something that's very calming, but I would avoid something like petting all over because that tends to get dogs really overly stimulated and then the jumping can start. So a very calm but affectionate greeting. And then what you do is you keep moving. Doors are choke points a lot of the time, and choke points are not very good for dogs because when you have a bunch of organisms in a small space, they tend to get really worked up. It's a common problem at shelters, doggy daycares, boarding facilities. Choke points are no good. So keep moving and move to somewhere in your house that is your greeting spot for your dog. So it could be a couch, a bed, a spot in the kitchen, wherever. You're gonna walk to the greeting spot, and as you're doing that walking, you really don't have to acknowledge your dog too much. Try not to get them overly excited, feel free to say with me or something like that, but don't be overly excited, just be calm, and you're going to walk to that location without too much excitement. When you get there, that's your greeting spot. So this is where if your dog is not jumping up, you can get down on their level, which I do usually recommend because your dog's not gonna jump up a lot of the time if you're down on their level, and then greet them calmly. So again, chest scratches, chin scratches, affection, but not over the top with the excitement. And then you can disengage to do something else for a while. So you can just say something simple like all done, go like this with your hands, and then go do what you need to do. And then once everyone's really warmed to the idea that you're home for good, then engage in some sort of play type activity. That way your dog knows you're home and you're here to do stuff with them. But if you set up that pattern where they don't expect something crazy every time you walk in the door, it helps a lot. They learn that greetings are calm and affectionate, and that's it. And that really helps to keep that, positive association with you getting home, but not associate you getting home with something that's extremely high energy and exciting. And if you have multiple dogs, work on this with multiple dogs. You can do it separately or all together. Typically, I recommend doing it separately at first and then all together once your dogs kind of get the hang of this idea. But practice this pattern repetitively, especially at times where you're not just arriving home. Walk out the door, walk back in and practice this to really give your dog a full understanding that this is what we do now when mom or dad gets home. Now that we've talked about what to avoid, what to do to set up a good pattern, we need to talk about troubleshooting, because if your dog is already one that's jumping during arrivals, it's a pattern they're used to, it's a habit. So in order to change the habit, we have to talk about positive ways to redirect your dog. So if your dog's already jumping, this is a super important section for you. So when you walk in the door, if the jumping starts immediately, the first thing we need to do is disengage from your dog. Remember that pushing your dog down with your hands or taking their paws and putting them on the ground, it's not super effective because your dog doesn't understand what you're doing. They don't have hands, they don't get it. So the best way to get your dog to disengage if they are jumping up on you is to use your body. So what you do if your dog is jumping up on you is you turn your body. We are not putting our body into our dog to use force, by the way. So you're not doing the old-fashioned knee to the chest. Doesn't work. It's a bad idea. We're not kind of hitting them. We're just turning our body so that their paws will disengage, okay? So you're going to say off, turn your body, and then the second all four of their paws make contact with the floor, you're going to praise, and that way they know they did the right thing. Again, not over the top excited praise, just, oh, good job, way to go. Then you start your move. Remember, we're not stalling at the doorway. It's a lot harder for a dog to jump on a moving target. So you're going to say off, turn your body. When their paws hit the ground, say yes or, praise, and then keep walking to wherever your greeting spot is. If the jumping starts again, disengage the same way. You just say off, you turn your body, and then when their paws hit the ground, that is when you praise. And again, keep moving to your greeting location. If your dog is one that not only jumps up when they're excited, but they mouth on you when they're excited, there's no sort of aggressive motivation behind that. They're just so excited, so high arousal, they don't know what to do with their mouth. You have a couple of options there. So if they're mouthing all over you, you can cross your arms. So assuming they're mouthing on your hands or your arms, cross your arms, and when you do the little turn to get them to disengage, they no longer have anything that they can easily grab onto. This is also very closed off body language to a dog. They understand that if you're not looking at them, if your arms are crossed, you're not paying attention to them. And in this situation, they want attention. So if you withdraw attention when they're jumping, they will stop jumping because they learn that it doesn't get them anything anymore. If they're already in the habit, you must be consistent because we're reteaching a new pattern of behavior. So it's a new habit we're forming. So be consistent there. Another thing that you can do when they're actively jumping or mouthing is don't make eye contact with them. Don't talk to them. We're not saying anything to them that they could possibly perceive as reinforcing because negative attention is still attention. So as soon as they jump, cross your arms, say off, turn your body, and then we're going to move. Okay? That way we're not reinforcing the jumping. Another thing that you can try if you have a dog that gets either really mouthy or barks a lot when they're excited when you greet them is have a bin of toys right next to the door. And when you walk in, the first thing you do is you pick up a toy and you hand it to them. A lot of times when dogs are mouthers or barkers, when they're exciting, they just have to do something with their mouth. So if you put a toy in their mouth, a lot of times they'll shake it or they'll run around with it or they'll chew on it. And then you have now solved the issue of them mouthing on your body or barking like crazy because they can't do that if they're playing with a toy. So toy bin by the door is a great redirect as well. Chances are that if you're consistent about giving your mouthy dog a toy every time you walk in the house, over time, they will start doing it on their own. They see you walk in the door, they look for where's the toy, where's the closest toy, and they know they can get their excitement out that way. So that is an excellent redirect as well. So remember, not giving attention, not allowing the jumping, but using our body to disengage, and then giving our dog something for their mouth if they are a mouthy or a barky dog. That can help as well. So those are excellent solutions for redirecting your dog when the jumping does begin. Another issue that you might have to troubleshoot with excitement, jumping, and mouthing during greetings is if you have a dog that directs their mouthing towards the lower half of your body. You can cross your arms if they're a dog that goes after your hands, but that does not help your ankles or the backs of your legs if your dog goes after those. So a really great redirect there is to take an old leash, attach a toy to the end. So where you would normally clip up the dog to the leash, you're gonna just clip a toy on instead and keep that by the door with your toy bin. And when you walk in, before you decide to move to the greeting spot, you're going to just grab that leash, drag it on the ground with the toy, and then your dog can direct their attention to the toy instead of your body. So you see this a lot with young puppies because they're mouthy, with adolescents, so those teenage terrors, and you see it oftentimes more frequently with herding breed dogs. So German Shepherds, Corgis, Aussies, any of those dogs that have strong herding instincts oftentimes will kind of nibble or poke at you when you're in motion. So this is a great redirect as well. We use this frequently in our house for our herding breed dog, our little Corgi. So it's a great redirect if you have a dog that goes after the lower half of your body. The other thing that you could do for a dog that does that is to teach a nice strong hand target, which tells your dog to just nuzzle your hand gently. And then what you can do is when you're in motion, you can give that hand target symbol and just have your dog kind of walk with you, booping their nose to your hand. That's way better than them nibbling on you. So if you need a good hand target video, the link will be down in the description. Feel free to train a hand target as well. It's an awesome behavior to redirect that kind of thing also. So to summarize this whole setup with your greeting behavior for your dog, remember that number one step is when you enter your home or whatever the situation is when you greet your dog, you are keeping your energy level low. You are calm, you are affectionate, but you are not excited. You are also going to very briefly acknowledge your dog before you move to that greeting spot. Do not stall at the door, keep moving, and when you get to that greeting spot with your dog, look for 4 on the floor, which basically means that all 4 paws are on the ground. They don't have to be sitting, they don't have to be laying down. Some dogs might do that naturally, but a lot of dogs, when they are excited, they physically don't have the ability to settle like that. So just look for 4 on the floor, and then you can engage with your dog if they are doing that. You're calmly petting, you're slowly petting, you're looking for pets under their chin or on their chest. You're not getting them riled up. And then you're going to say, all done. Do something with your hands if you want. I love to just kind of make this motion because it's really obvious to dogs. And then I'm going to withdraw attention. So not staring at my dog, not getting them super worked up. And then after a few minutes have passed, that's when I'm more likely to engage in a game or an enrichment opportunity. I don't want to associate all those crazy, exciting things with my arrival. I want to separate them in space and separate them in time, and that will help a ton. And remember, there are also things that you want to have in your back pocket to troubleshoot. So have toys by the door, have a leash by the door with an old toy clipped to it as well. That way you can troubleshoot those behaviors and redirect in the moment. The other thing you want to remember is that this must be consistent among all members of your household. Consistency is key. If you have some people that reinforce the jumping and some people that discourage the jumping, long term, it's not going to work. Your dog's going to learn that if they jump all the time, sometimes it works, which actually encourages it. So everybody must be consistent. That includes the guests in your household. If guests cannot be consistent with this, it's a great time to crate for arrivals with a Kong, and then after your dog has settled, then let them out when they're already lower energy. So know your guests, talk to them ahead of time, and if they can't or don't want to reinforce the right behavior, just crate your dogs for a couple of minutes with something great, and then you can let them out when they're no longer excited. And finally, remember the things to avoid. Do not yell. It's going to get your dog more worked up because they think you're barking when you're yelling. Do not use physical punishment like a shock collar or a prong collar or a poke to the chest or a knee to the chest. Do not use other training collars. They're also aversive. If they beep or they vibrate or they spray citronella in their face, avoid all of those things. It's sloppy, it doesn't work long term, and it doesn't tell your dog what to do instead. And finally, make sure that you're not accidentally reinforcing the jumping by petting your dog, giving your dog eye contact, giving your dog attention when they are jumping. You need to withdraw all attention when your dog is jumping. Remember, turn your body, cross your arms, put that toy on the ground so you are not actually reinforcing the jumping. You're redirecting the jumping to something better. And you must practice. It is best to set this up at times when your dog is not super excited so that they get the idea, and that further increases the chance that when you get home and you do all these things, your dog remembers, oh, this is the pattern. This is what I do when a human walks in the door. That is very, very powerful. Dogs are masters of patterns, and they can absolutely learn this pattern. Even if they are already jumpers, you can just reset this pattern. But remember, it's a habit. So just like human habits, it takes time, it takes practice, it takes consistency. And when you do that, your dog is going to flourish, and that relationship is going to remain strong and get even stronger. So remember, everyone, as far as excitement jumping goes and all other common behavior problems, when you're looking for a solution, you first want to determine why the dog's doing what they're doing and what you want the dog to do instead. And when you reinforce a better pattern, things are only going to get better for you and your dog and everyone else that they come into contact with. As always, make sure you like and subscribe for new content. Check out some of the other training videos if you need any other how-tos. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.